Good morning. Actually, good Sunday morning to everyone here, and welcome. I'm Michael, and this is Happy English Live. That's right. This is my first live YouTube lesson of 2017, and I'd like to just welcome everybody here. I know for everyone that's in North and South America, it's early in the morning, and for everyone in Asia, it's late at night, but I guess for my students and viewers that are in Europe, you guys are the luckiest ones because it's something like in the afternoon. Hi, Jane. Hello from Paris. Thank you for joining me today. Well, I've got a few different things that I'd like to talk with you guys about today. And we're going to look at a pronunciation point. That's going to be first. And next, we're going to look at an important grammar point that comes from a listener's question. And the third thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at some idioms that relate to snow, because yesterday in New York, we had about 15 centimeters of snow. And so actually after this live lesson, I'm going to go out and shovel the snow. Exciting. And then after that, I have a couple of listener questions that people have written that I'm going to answer. And if you are watching now, and you have a question that you'd like to ask, why don't you type that in the chat box over here, or maybe from your angle it's over there, and I'll try and answer that at the end of the show. All right, let's get started. The first thing that I want to talk about today is pronunciation, and it's the pronunciation of the letter T. Usually, in spoken American English, T sounds like a D. And for example, I have here a battery. That's right, it's a battery. Nice to see you too. Oh, hello from Japan. So it's a battery. Now I know that the spelling is B-A-T-T-E-R-Y, but we pronounce this as battery. In fact, it's a battery. It's a little battery. It's a little battery. It's a little battery. It's a little battery. Yesterday, I had a little bit of a cold, but today I feel better. I feel better. I feel better. I feel a little better than yesterday. A little better. A little better. So the T sound actually sounds like a D, especially when it comes in the middle of a word. So, it's a little battery. It's a little battery. I feel better. I feel better. I feel a little better. Okay, that brings us to the next part, which is go to. Go to. So I just said that the T sounds like a D. And we have go to, like go to work or go to school. So go to is often pronounced like Goda. Goda. You know, like the character in Star Wars, his name is Yoda, or its name is Yoda. So we say Goda. Goda. I go to the train station every morning. I go to the train station every morning. In fact, I have to go to work tomorrow. I have to. Have to. Have to sounds like have to. Go to sounds like go to. So I have to go to work tomorrow. I have to go to work tomorrow. I can't have coffee with you because I have to go to work tomorrow. Yeah, I have to go to work tomorrow. How about you? Do you have to go to work tomorrow? I have to go to work tomorrow. It's a little battery. I feel a little better. All right, so it's a little battery. Little. A little. Little. A little. The other day, actually last week, somebody asked me, what's the difference between little and a little? For example, we had a little snow yesterday. We had a little snow yesterday. Or we had little snow yesterday. This is very similar to few and a few. I have few pens. I have a few pens. So, what's the difference? Well, the quantity is about the same, but the difference is little and a little have a different nuance. And when we add a in front of little or in front of few, Mohammed, hi. When we add a in front of little or in front of few, it has a positive nuance. So, for example, Jack told me the other day that even though it's the end of the month, he has a little money left. He has a little money. A little money is a small amount of money, but it's a positive nuance. On the other hand, Jenny said, I have little money. I have little money. So I have little money has a negative nuance, and it shows that she's not satisfied. She said, I have little money. It means she's not satisfied with the amount. But Jack said, I have a little money. It means that Jack is satisfied with the amount, even though the amount is small. Here's another example with few and a few. Tommy just moved to New York from California, and he's a friendly guy, so already he has a few friends. He has a few friends. It's a positive idea, a few friends. But Bob, who also moved to New York, has few friends. Bob has few friends. It means he's not satisfied with the amount. So the nuance is, I have a few friends, is a positive nuance, and I have few friends, that's a negative nuance. It's the same thing as I have a little time tomorrow. I have a little time. Why don't we have lunch? Or I have little time tomorrow, so I think we can't have lunch tomorrow. So that's the difference. When you put a in front of little, a little, or a few, it has a positive nuance, and little and few have a negative nuance. Okay? So that's the difference with that grammar point. And thank you for asking that question on the Instagram page. Yes, that's what that's called, Instagram. All right, so next, we have a lot of things to cover today. Next, I want to talk about idioms about snow. That's right, snow. Beautiful life. Hello, how are you? Yesterday it snowed. Like I said in the beginning of the program, we had about 15 centimeters of snow yesterday, even though the weather forecast said we're only going to have about 5. I'm not sure why the weather forecast and the weather people often lie, but that's what happens. So, because we have so much snow outside, I thought of a couple of snow-related idioms that I'd like to show you. Hi, Monica. Thanks for joining us from Italy. Okay, the first one is snowed under. I'm snowed under. I am snowed under. You can imagine that there's so much snow falling and I am snowed under. I am under the snow. When you are snowed under, it means you have too much work to do or too many tasks to do in your job or in school. For example, at the end of the year, a lot of people in the accounting department were snowed under at work. They were snowed under at work. It means they have a lot of work to do. They're snowed under. When it's final exam student, let's try that again. See, this is live. Now you know it's live. When it's final exam season, a lot of students are snowed under studying and preparing for their finals. They're snowed under. It means they have so much work to do. How about you? Have you been snowed under recently? I know I have. The next one is kind of one of my favorite idioms. It's snow job. Snow job. A snow job is an obvious lie. And this is something that children and students and sometimes adults do all the time. Cheers, by the way. This is my second cup of Joe. So, a snow job. For example, last week, one of my students came to class, but she didn't have her homework. And she said, "Oh, I'm sorry I didn't bring my homework, but I did my homework and I left the window open and all of the papers left and went out the window." That's a snow job. It's an obvious lie. So here's another example. When Jack came to the office late for work, again, the boss said, "Hey, Jack, why are you late?" And Jack said, "Oh, I'm so sorry I'm late. You see, I tried to get on the subway, but I waited and the subway didn't come. And then I decided to take the bus instead. And so I took the bus, but there was heavy traffic and that's why I'm late." That's a snow job. It's pretty clear that Jack was lying about his situation. So that's a snow job. And we usually say somebody gives you a snow job. All right? He gave me a snow job. It means he told me a story that I think is not true. He gave me a snow job. Okay. Jane says she is. So Jane, we don't say have a snow under. You can say I am snowed under. So I am snowed under. It's used as an adjective with the be verb, okay? I'm snowed under. Let's see. In Italy, Monica says they're having more than 50 centimeters of snow. Wow, you are actually, and not in an idiom way, snowed under. And Yokoshi-chan from Japan says, what about a lot of and a lotta? Right. So, a lot of. A lot of is a substitute. That's a great question. So you know it's live because I'm thinking while I'm doing this. We just talked about a little and a few. And a lot of is similar in that a lot of tells us about a quantity. So you know much and many, right? So for example, I have many students here in New York, or we had so much snow yesterday. So you can use a lot of in place of much and many. And in fact, it's pretty common in conversational English to do that. So I can say, we had a lot of snow yesterday, or there are a lot of cars in the street this morning. So, a lot of. And as I said at the beginning of this class, the T, excuse me, sorry, this is how you know that it's really live. The T in the middle of the word sounds like D. So instead of saying a lot of, we say a lotta. There's a lot of snow outside. There are a lot of people shoveling snow this morning at their house. Beautiful life. Hello from Morocco. What's the difference between find it out and look it up? Look it up. Look something up is the action that you do to discover something. And find something out is the result of the action. So there was a word, I don't know the word, and I check on the dictionary. So I look it up means to check on a dictionary or check in a reference manual or book, and then I find out what it means. So that's the difference there. Okay, I have 2 questions that I'd like to get to that a couple of Happy English fans sent me by email yesterday. Hang on. Yokoshi-san says, when I had a lot of work yesterday, could I say I had snowed under? So with snowed under, we use the be verb. You have to use the be verb. So you can say, today I am snowed under, or yesterday I was snowed under, or I think this week I will be snowed under. So snowed under is always with the be verb and not have or has, okay? That's how that works. So, excuse me, moving along, I have my sheet here. You guys can't see that, it's over here. David from Angola sent me an email yesterday, and David asked about tag questions. How are they used? And so the tag question is the little question that comes at the end of a sentence, like, it's a nice day, isn't it? It's a nice day, isn't it? Isn't it is the short question that comes at the end of the sentence, it's a nice day. It's a nice day, isn't it? Well, the usage of the tag question depends on what you are trying to say with it. In other words, we have 2 kinds of intonation that we use with a tag question because there are 2 basic uses for that. Excuse me. The first one, when you have a downward intonation with a tag question, hello, rice ball. When you have a downward intonation from a tag question, it means that you are looking for agreement from the other person. For example, I could say, it's a nice day today, isn't it? It's a nice day today, isn't it? Isn't it? So the intonation goes down. I say this with this intonation, it's a nice day, isn't it? Because I think it's a nice day. I believe you also have the same opinion. You also probably agree with me. So I'm just looking for or checking for that agreement. It's a nice day, isn't it? And then you might say, yeah, it's a beautiful day. That's the downward intonation. Hello, Maricela from Mexico. Hi, thanks for joining us. Okay, so that's the downward intonation. It's a nice day, isn't it? Sometimes we also use a tag question when we want to check information. In other words, I think I know something. I think I have some information, but I just want to check. So I could use an upward intonation for that. For example, you like pizza, don't you? You like pizza, don't you? Don't you? So the intonation goes up, and I say, you like pizza, don't you? Because I think you like pizza, but I'm not sure. So I'm just checking. You like pizza, don't you? So the intonation goes up when you think you know something and you just want to check that information. You like to study English, don't you? You like to study English, don't you? So I think you and I both agree about you studying English, so my intonation goes down. I'm just looking for agreement. You like to study English, don't you? But I could say, you like to study English, don't you? When my intonation goes up, it means I think you like to study English, but I'm not so sure, so I'm just checking. You like to study English, don't you? And the intonation goes up. Okay, that's how we do tag questions in English. Eva from Poland, thanks for joining us this morning, or your afternoon. Michael drunk a cup of Joe. That's right. It's a cup of Joe. I'm sure you guys have seen my videos before, or my podcast. And in case you haven't, if this is your first time for us to meet, well, welcome. And I'm drinking a cup of Joe. I don't know if I can show you that because I don't want to spill coffee on the computer. But a cup of Joe is a cup of coffee. Okay, and then Monica, who's here live, sent me a question about phrasal verbs. And a phrasal verb is a combination of a preposition, a verb and a preposition. Okay, so it's a verb plus preposition, like turn on the television or put out your cigarette. And there are a lot of rules that surround phrasal verbs, and we don't have time here today to cover all of that. But Monica's question was a good question, which is that basically, how do I know if the phrasal verb is important to learn or not? And, should I use those? Should I use the verb instead? So here's an example. Put out your cigarette, or put out the fire. Put out means to extinguish a fire. So you can, if you're smoking, and God, I hope you don't smoke, but if you do smoke, or somebody is smoking, you can ask them, excuse me, can you put out your cigarette? It means stop the fire of the cigarette. Or there was a fire downtown, and the fire department put out the fire in 1 hour. So they extinguished the fire. So then what's the difference between using put out and extinguish? That's a great question. The answer is that in American English, especially American spoken English, or spoken American English, that's the right order. You see, now you know it's live when there are so many mistakes in the speaking. That's a good cup of Joe. All right. No editing here, folks. This is live. In spoken American English, we prefer to use a phrasal verb. It's more conversational. The verb which represents the phrasal verb, or the verb that the phrasal verb represents, is more formal sounding. So You know, I found out that my grandmother was a taxi driver. I found out that my grandmother was a taxi driver. Find out. Find out means discover. And conversationally, it's more natural to use the phrasal verb find out than the word discover. So, hey, I found out that there's a new coffee shop in town. Let's go. That sounds more natural than saying, I just discovered a new coffee shop is in town. Or, excuse me, can you put out that cigarette? We would never say in conversation, in an English conversation, excuse me, would you extinguish your cigarette? Extinguish is a very formal word. I remember a long time ago that it was possible that you could smoke on an airplane. I know today in 2017, that's unbelievable. But they would have that announcement at the beginning of the flight. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to take off from New York, so please make sure your seatbelt is securely fastened and extinguish your cigarettes. Extinguish your cigarettes. That's a very formal sounding word used in a very formal situation. So, in conversational English, we would just say, please put out your cigarette. So that's the basic idea. So, and phrasal verbs are not like too casual or too slang or something like that. They're very, very naturally used in American English. So don't worry about using them. And it's better to say, I found out that there's a new cafe in town. I found out there's a new cafe in town. That's more natural than saying, I discovered there's a new cafe in town. Okay? So that's the idea about phrasal verbs. But the problem, Just Live It says, but the problem is that some phrasal verbs have lots of meanings. Yes. So, yes, they do. And I tell this to my students here all the time. With a phrasal verb, you have to think that a phrasal verb is like an idiom. You just have to memorize it. There's no way that you can really understand the meaning by looking at it only. So you just have to memorize it. And that brings us to another question that I hear all the time, which is, how do I remember vocabulary? And I mentioned this in the last YouTube Live. The answer is, if you have something that you want to learn, that you want to remember, like vocabulary, like a phrasal verb, like find out. I found out my grandmother was a taxi driver. Just an example. You need to take that vocabulary and you need to write a few sentences using that vocabulary, using that phrasal verb that are true in your world. Okay? So maybe you found out that your company is going to open a branch office in Paris. So you could write that. I found out the company is going to open a branch office in Paris. Or I found out that Jack is having a party for Jenny's birthday. Whatever the sentence is, the sentence has to be true for you, okay? And I know that, that's the best advice that I can give you. And a lot of people, I know that there are a lot of English teachers out there that are saying things like, here's the secret to being an English speaker, or I have my 5 secrets for fluency, or here are many secrets and tricks that you can. There is no trick, okay? The trick is you take the vocabulary that you want to remember and you write it in a sentence that is true in your world. If that sentence is true, I found out there's a new cafe in town. That's true. There's a new cafe in town. I found out there's a new cafe in town. It's true. It makes sense. It's part of your life. That's the secret to improving your vocabulary. Okay? That's my best advice about that. Okay, what else did I want to talk about? Oh, here's the last thing, because it's 9:30 here in New York, and we're almost out of time. So, first of all, thank you so much for joining me. Second of all, if you'd like to check out my website, which is myhappyenglish.com, I've got over 1,000 free English lessons there on that website, okay? And that includes about 420 podcasts and other kinds of English lessons, including YouTube videos. So please check out my homepage, myhappyenglish.com. And I'm planning on doing a lot more live YouTube English lessons this year in 2017. This is the first one. And hopefully I'll be able to do 1 or 2 per week, all right? That's my goal. And I'm going to do them at all different time zones. This is, the morning for North America, South America, the afternoon for Europe, and the evening for Asia. I'll also be doing these live lessons in the morning in Asia and all different times in the day so that everybody can check them out. And okay, that's all the time that we have for today's lesson. I know that there are a lot of questions here in the chat box. I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to get to them today, but I'm going to write those down, and I will do those at the next live, which will be coming soon. Check your email or check Facebook or Instagram or the other social media. So that's our lesson for today. Check out myhappyenglish.com, and thank you so much for studying with me today. It was great to have you guys here early in the morning with my cup of joe. So thanks for studying here, and I look forward to seeing you guys, oops, there it is, next time right here at Happy English. No, it's Happy English.